Welcome to my channel. This is another time-lapse video. I am painting David Cheng as Captain Nogura, and I'm going to start using my usual approach to drawing, which is really kind of a loose version of using sight size to find the heights of different parts of the face, and then working from the inside out using angles to discover features. And one of the things that I really want to get better at is the rest of the face, where I'm working from the inside out. The eyes, the nose, and the mouth placement are all pretty reliable because of the angles and the way they cross some of those horizontal lines, which represent sort of vertical markers on the face. But when I'm talking about widths, it's a little harder to find a spot where an angle might cross because sight size doesn't really help with widths very much. So I'm doing a lot of measuring, and I want to continue to refine that process to make that more accurate, because the better the drawing is, the better the likeness will be. And a lot of people will use things like projectors or grids or tracings, which all work really, really well, but only work really well from a photograph. And even though I'm working from a photograph here, it's set up in my studio the same way it would be if I were working with a live model. So this is a life-size print. It's right next to my surface, which is how I would pose a model. And I'm standing back and kind of flicking my eyes back and forth to try to use that process of seeing a difference between my drawing and the subject to help guide some of that freehand work. And I want to go back and making some corrections you can see. And I put in a background that I think is close to the background here. I think there's not quite as much contrast in my background. But working right away on the features I feel I have the most confidence in, and just putting in our darkest darks. It's a very common way to start a painting. I did something a little different with this painting. I'm using a more transparent white, which won't really be evident right here because I'm still working on shadows. But when I start putting together the skin tones, the white that I normally use is titanium white. It's very opaque, and it tends to have a very strong influence on whatever color I'm using it to lighten. And the more transparent whites just has less of a sort of a milkiness to it, or a chalkiness to it. You wind up with a little better retention of the original chroma of the color. And you can see that, I think, in the forehead there. You see that there's very light value paint, but it's still got quite a bit of color intensity to it. That's something that I wouldn't be able to achieve easily with titanium white. And because I'm working very quickly, I thought this would be an advantage to me. And again, I'm working quickly in an alla prima style because that's how I work when I have a live model, and I want this practice here to be something I can use no matter what the subject or how it's posed. So working from a live model in the same way is going to have a very similar physical approach in terms of me standing back 7 or 8 feet from the surface and the model, and looking and mixing my colors and applying them in a way that, from that far away, the contrast seems to match or is at least believable. So that's how I wound up with the colors of the face, using that more transparent white. Now I'm also using the same white to work on the uniform, and for that I actually don't need the transparency, but I was just too lazy to break out a different white for that, and I think it works well enough. This is something that I think a lot of artists either have some nervousness around, or it's like a notable part of their work is painting hands. And I didn't want to over focus on the hands, firstly because I didn't have a lot of time. I could spend like days just on the hands if I wanted to really do a really photorealistic job of running them. And I didn't want to have to do that. I just wanted them to be believable and not be a distraction, because this is a portrait of David, not just his hands. But it's really cool that he's holding that phase pistol. That was one of my favorite things about this reference photo. I love the phase pistol, and I really love that David included it. And just getting the emblem right in his uniform. And this is the final painting. I do think it is a pretty good likeness, and I hope David likes it. And if you like this video, please click the like button. If you want to see more of these, please subscribe to my channel and set your notifications. I can be found on the web at robertosuzuki.art, on Instagram at roberto_suzuki_art, and at Facebook at roberto suzuki art.